Hello and welcome to the Intel Brief. Today is Thursday, the 2nd of July. I am your host, Daniel, and today we're going to talk about the US and Iran have entered technical talks on how to secure the peace deal and restart shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Russia has launched a missile and drone strike on Kyiv, and Ukraine has struck an oil refinery in Kstovo and a railway bridge in Occupied Luhansk. So firstly, US and Iranian delegations have entered technical level talks on July the 1st, aimed at finalizing a nuclear agreement and restoring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. The talks mark a concrete step towards implementation after months of high-level negotiations. Roughly 20% of global oil supply transits through the Strait of Hormuz, which I have told you probably 50 times at this point, so sorry that I keep laboring the point. So what? I think it's a really good start. We've got to a point where they're actually sitting down and talking through the technical details. But I think, as we're probably all aware at this point, there's still a significant way to go. As recently as yesterday, I believe, Trump said that he is considering restarting the war with Iran, but also, the B-52 Stratofortresses have now left the UK and head back to the US. So they are definitely down or decreasing the size of their military presence in the region. I think a successful deal here would be one of the biggest geopolitical shifts in the Middle East in years. Regardless of how it goes, the US has lost some significant credibility here with the Gulf states, and it's likely they're going to look to kind of offset this, particularly with China, would be my assessment. But there's going to be some changes, I have no doubt. And as I keep saying, the US is currently negotiating from a pretty weak spot. Congress has made it pretty clear that they're not too keen on going back to war with Iran. And there's a lot of pressure on Trump to get a deal done here, not only from within the political circles, but economically as well, and geopolitically. So it's not really the greatest position to be negotiating with. But next, Russia has launched a combined missile and drone strike on Kyiv on July the 2nd, so the early hours of this morning, targeting infrastructure and residential areas of the Ukrainian capital. Ukrainian air defenses intercepted a number of incoming munitions, but debris caused damage. There was also almost certainly some direct hits, regardless of what this article says. The attack is one of the most significant on the capital in recent weeks. So what? I think these strikes are designed to try and keep pressure on the Ukrainian leadership and, trying to damage civilian morale simultaneously. But as I have discussed in the past in both this podcast and in long-form videos, that isn't actually how it really works in real life. This is like a theory that goes back to World War II, where we believed that if you bombed the people of a country, they would put pressure on their leadership to make a deal because they were miserable. It would be the kind of general idea. But what actually happens in real life is that the more you bomb a people, the more they are kind of driven to hate you. Understandably, if you kind of think about it for more than 5 minutes. But yeah, that's kind of how it actually goes. So, this will most likely just strengthen the resolve of the Ukrainian people and make them hate Russia more. Shock horror. But the scale of this attack is going to put fresh scrutiny on Ukraine's air defense stockpiles. A lot of this comes from the US, and their relationship with the US has become pretty tense of recent days, or years, months, I don't know, however long Trump's been in power at this point. And the speed of Western resupply. Getting that technical ammunition is one of the hardest things they face at this point. But the strikes in general are relatively ineffective when you compare them to Ukraine's campaign, which we're going to talk about right now. Ukrainian forces have struck a Luke oil refinery in the Kstovo region last night, which sparked a fire in one of the facility's primary refinery units. A railway bridge was also hit in the Russian occupied territories of Luhansk, I believe, in the same operation. The refinery is said to process around 17 million tons of crude oil per year and directly supplies fuel to Russian military operations. So what? Continuing pressure, I believe, is Ukraine's best path to victory. We're currently seeing the results of this pressure both on the battlefield and in civilian life, with there being numerous videos at this point of just unbelievably long queues for fuel, which has resulted in punch-ups on the side of roads, um, large-scale disagreements, fuel short, like what do you call it, like rules around how much fuel you can take, how you can fill up your cars. It's really putting the pressure on the civilian population, which is almost certainly flowing over to the military side as well. Because, if you don't have fuel, you're pretty fucked when it comes to military operations. I think their drones, something like Russian drone swarms in one night use a ridiculous amount of diesel because that's how their engines are powered. So, even that is reliant on fuel. So disrupting their fuel supply is a huge victory for Ukraine. Putting this out, disrupting the output of this refinery puts pressure on the Russian. Yeah, we just talked about that. And the Eastern Front, and pairing the refinery and rail strikes in the same operation suggests there's some type of coordinated campaign against Russian logistics, not just opportunistic targeting. Ukraine actually seems to have a tactic and a theory here of what they're trying to achieve and how they're trying to go about it, targeting certain refineries at certain times, making Russia move their air defense around, and basically playing a bit of whack-a-mole. Every time you move defenses away from something, you hit that, making them move it back, just making life difficult for the Russian military. But anyway, that's been the Intel Brief. I've been your host, Daniel, and I'll see you again tomorrow. See you.